This is Weekly Gaming News. It's been a very busy week for Xbox. There is a ton of gaming news, leaks, previews, and reviews for games that are coming out, and total avalanche of game releases that start right now into the holiday and pour over into the beginning of next year. The first thing we got was a reveal for gameplay for Fable. Jez Corden from Windows Central got eyes on for Fable's gameplay from Playground Games, a game set to come out at the end of 2025. Jez said, "I very recently saw some alpha gameplay footage from Fable. It looked fantastic. You can tell that this game has CD Projekt Red DNA. Playground Games picked a bunch of developers. I believe they picked up the combat designer. Melee combat, the pirouettes, the dodging, the seamless hack and slash into execution, which looks really cool. All that stuff is there. It looks super polished, super good. If this was early gameplay, then it probably looks even better now. Beyond that, there was a mixing in of different weapon types. There was pulling out a bow and arrow and also dropping spells. I saw a spell that lifted a group of dudes off the ground and slammed them down. I also saw some enemies like a giant chicken. It looked like a dangerous, scary chicken. I also saw werewolves. It looked really great. The combat looked really tight. I saw a variety of weapons. I saw a big mallet thing, which is being used to swing around and hit multiple enemies at once. My hype level went up from seeing this stuff, so that's why I'm bullish on Fable now." Other people that got eyes on Fable said that the game looks incredible with the combat matching the production values like we saw in Hellblade 2. The vibe of Witcher 3, Geralt's awesome combat mixed with what we've already seen with Fable, and the production that we've seen in the new Hellblade game gives tons of promise for Fable. But that's not even the best part in this leak. This leak also says that Jez Corden was told that you can play as a male character in Fable. Of course, that's always been the case in the Fable games, and veterans know you get to choose to play as a young boy or a young girl. And he hasn't seen eyes on of the male character, but that will be available. Playground Games also has a penchant for making customizable characters. Like in the Forza Horizon games, you can choose from 15 different presets. I would suspect that we'd be able to play as the female character shown here, but be able to change skin tone, hairstyle, facial complexion, and other things to make it your own, while also staying sort of true to the character they intended, whether you choose a female or a male character. But what we've seen so far and what is yet to be shown is probably going to be readied for the developer direct in the early part of 2025. So watch out for Playground's Fable. Just days after, Xbox had major previews for Avowed, the upcoming RPG from Obsidian Entertainment. This game is set to come out February 18th, 2025, just 3 months from now, and hands-on from reviewers, critics, and content creators like myself. I got hands-on of what would be a 2-hour playable demo in the prologue, which we couldn't talk about yet, and the first biome called Dawnshore, where you first arrive and start the main part of the game. This demo was supposed to be 2 hours long, but I put in well over 8 hours before I started gathering my preview thoughts. Check out that video. It's here on the channel. It just came out yesterday. The game has really great combat, and most of it is meant to be in first person, but there is a third person combat mode and explorer mode that I showed in my video, and you can see it here. It looks really great. It's not perfect. There are things that need to be polished over time, and hopefully they're listening to the critiques as they come through from this preview. But Avowed looks like a Sea of Thieves style game on steroids, with graphics in between the recent Dragon Age game and newer Bethesda titles. Of course, third person does look and feel great, but there's something missing if you don't play it in first person. So if they can add a toggle to go back and forth at ease, I think people will choose playing in either of these modes, and it will be really, really satisfying. So the previews from journalists cite things like, "Now it's one of my most anticipated games of 2025. Or one says, "This preview proved that I'm going to love Avowed." And another said, "Classic Obsidian fantasy on a AAA budget." So far right now, the reception for Avowed, even though it's 3 months out, is very, very good. Fans are shocked, surprised, and delighted, as was I once I got hands-on with Avowed. But there's one more important news piece that comes from Paris Lilly of Kinda Funny Games, who interviewed the lead director, that said 30 FPS is the least of what they're going to do for performance on the Xbox Series S and X. They actually are getting performance mode worked on, so it sounds like they are trying to get 60 FPS at launch, which I really hope they do, because it doesn't look good when Xbox can't get their own console from their own first-party studios to hit 60 FPS on a capable, excellent piece of hardware like the Xbox Series X. More to come on that very soon. But Avowed looks really great, and I think it's starting to win people over. Stalker II was another game that came out from Xbox and Microsoft and Game Pass, a partnership with GSC World Studios, a Ukraine studio that went through literal actual war, lost people in the process, and had such a long development cycle, many delays. It looks like Stalker II should have taken another delay because it came out right in the middle of November here, just 3 days ago, and it's had performance issues across PC and the Xbox consoles. There's a quality mode for the Xbox and there is a performance mode, but as Digital Foundry shows, it doesn't quite hit that 60 FPS target.
The Xbox Series X essentially is never going to be hitting 60 FPS. It targets 60 FPS in its performance mode, but it is pretty much never there when it matters. If you are alone in a room or with almost nothing on screen, then yeah, it can be 60 FPS, but in the world or in combat, it'll typically be in the 50s or in the 40s occasionally. This mode is almost never hitting the desired VSync refresh rate, and should not be used on a fixed refresh rate display. On a VRR display, it feels a lot better, minus any moments when it is CPU limited intensely or when you traverse the game world, as frame times there will be a bit more erratic, and that still looks a little bit choppy to my eye.
Barring the performance issues on all hardware right now, which will be patched out and the day one patch is much better, there are also bugs and glitches and small issues with Stalker 2 for all players playing on whatever device. But reception and number of players has been really great. Stalker 2 is still persisting to be a great, successful title for the brand. Also, those of you who are expecting to be like Far Cry or Call of Duty will be in a strong surprise to know that this is really a patient game and it's for the hardcore. It's a classic Stalker game for those in the cult fan following that have been playing Stalker for well over a couple of decades. Stalker 2 is one of those games that you will die a lot. You're meant to die a lot. You can save at any time if you're not in the middle of combat, which makes it more palatable. But the visuals on Xbox could be much better, and they sort of showed everything, I think, at PC. So it does look really good in the trailers, and you will see a bit of a visual downgrade like you're seeing in this footage here on Xbox Series X. But underneath all of that is a really great game. It's still acquisition season, and Sony has made an attempt to buy FromSoftware. Well, the company that owns FromSoftware, the games Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, but PlayStation, through Sony, is in talks to acquire Kadokawa, a company that also has a major anime company. This would be, more importantly, a monopoly for the anime group, content paired with Sony's already owned Crunchyroll. Hoag's Law, who covered a bunch of the Activision Blizzard acquisition for Xbox, put in his expertise about Sony going after such a major conglomerate, which includes entertainment, media, and gaming. Hoag's Law said, "Honestly, I'd be more concerned about Sony accidentally bankrupting themselves than monopolizing games and anime. I just don't see a simple way for them to pay for this. They have approximately $12 billion. This company is likely worth 15 to 20 billion. But even partial payment in equity would be running close to red line." This is one of those situations where Xbox or PlayStation are trying to consolidate and acquire different studios to bolster up their own platform and make it bigger so they can flex their muscles next to Tencent, Embracer, Microsoft, and now Sony. And those fans who are asking for more acquisitions are going to learn the sharp truth that most of these games that are acquired of these studios and publishers will most likely be multi-plat deal. Jason Schreier of Bloomberg said, "Don't worry folks, even if Sony buys Kadokawa, rest assured that future Dark Souls and Elden Ring games will still come to Xbox." PlayStation fans excited about the prospect of Elden Ring 2 or future Dark Souls games or other major games from FromSoftware being exclusive only to the PlayStation platform have just now received the news that no, they will not be exclusive. There's major copium that FromSoftware will actually make a Bloodborne title or a remaster, remake, or even a Bloodborne 2. And if that happens, I can see Sony being able to pull the trigger on an exclusive deal for perpetuity on their platform. But as for all other mainline FromSoftware games, they'll still come to Xbox. We are in an industry right now who is more concerned with getting active users every month. People buying more games, even if that means bringing them to PC day and date or bringing them to all consoles day and date or shortly after that. Of course, fans are going to celebrate about Elden Ring and all those games belonging to PlayStation, just as Xbox fans have celebrated having Call of Duty in the ownership of Xbox. But really, this should translate for fans down to more money, more revenue, and more strength going into more games if that's your preferred platform. But PlayStation is definitely trying to directly compete with Microsoft and the other competitors. One last piece of Xbox news that rolled in today, which I don't know if this really affects most of us, but Xbox announced Ultimate Game Pass streaming. Phil Spencer talked last week about getting all of your games that you own on the Xbox platform available to stream on any device, because if you bought those games and you're playing them in the cloud on an Xbox console in a server rack, by all rights, there should be no legal reason to stop you from playing those on a mobile phone if it's physically playing from an Xbox, which is within the IP and franchise regulations. But now, Xbox has made push forward to get streaming games. 50 titles were already announced to be playable on any device through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and xCloud. Xbox said, "We are happy to announce over 50 great games are now available for streaming. Our library of cloud playable titles will continue to grow as we work with our partners around the world to bring you diverse and expansive selection of great games across devices. You can stream any version of these games below that you own." Some of the titles that I broke out from the 50 that I thought were super important and big popular games were Assassin's Creed Mirage, Balatro, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Dying Light 2, Hogwarts Legacy, Metro Exodus, Mortal Kombat 1, NBA 2K25, The Witcher 3, Tom Clancy's Division 2, and the new Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. This is just a step in the direction of Xbox allowing us to play all our games wherever we want. Hopefully, natively will be the next thing, as I'm not super interested in playing cloud-based games, but that's what they're trying for, and it looks like Xbox is breaking ground with old, archaic franchise agreements. And that's your weekly gaming news. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. The weekly segment here where I'm breaking down the most important news items has been pretty enjoyable. I hope that you also like these news segments. The biggest thing for me was the Fable leak, and I don't know how much traction that got talking about Fable, as the game is at least a year out. I'm thinking actually maybe even a year and a half. I just have this feeling that Fable is going to need another 3 to 6 months after they promised to be there at the end of 2025, and that's going to be a packed year no matter what game you are. I'm excited about Fable. I'm going to play as whatever character. I'll try both. I don't really care, but the game looks incredible, and it's probably Xbox's most promising game. Now, talking about a promising game, Avowed has really stepped up there, and hearing people say that it's way up on their list now. And for me, I've always wanted to play Avowed. I was really excited about it, but now after playing it, and I couldn't put it down, Steam says I have 18 hours on that preview build. Really excited for what they have, and I can't wait to get into that. Indiana Jones is coming in a couple of weeks, so we've got plenty to play. If you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. If you want to further support the work we're doing here on the Colteastwood channel, trying to bring you 1 to 2, sometimes 3 videos a week, so you stay entertained when you're not playing games. You can do that by hitting the join button below. It's over here. Yeah, that's where it's right there. Just hit that. It's $5. It'll get you early access, monthly merch giveaways, and custom emojis. And when you're in the live chat for the Ecstasy podcast, you'll get your name there with custom emojis. And that's every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate everybody who checks out that show with Middle-Aged Game Guy and I. We'll talk more about the weekly news and get into some rumored stuff as well. There's a lot going on till the end of the year. So let me know what you think about the weekly games news and what was your most exciting reveal this week. And while you're there, as I always say, please be nice.